In this video, I'm going to be giving you my 5 tips for practicing at home effectively. What's up, guys? This is Mike from Imagine Music Instruction, and I wanted to make sure that you guys are starting to think about how can I take what I'm doing and just make that small change, look at it a different way, and really, start blazing a trail forward in what you're doing. So let's get right to it. The first tip is getting your space right. If you look behind me, you can see I've got my space really dialed in for music. I've got my guitar amp. I've got, my action figure guy up there that's, just kind of pervading over the scene. And I think it's really important to have a fun, open, and really conducive space for practicing. It's as simple as just having a spot where you can kind of close the door, and things are right there where you've got your book. You know that it's somewhere where you feel pretty comfortable. You're in a chair that, like this chair right here, it's it just allows you to sit up straight. You're not on a couch. You're not sitting on your bed. There are a lot of things that students don't always do right, and that we cover, where they're going, hey, yeah, I've been practicing, but they're sitting on their bed, or they're sitting on the couch, or there's stuff going on in the background, or with adults, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I'm doing this, real quick here and there, and what you have to do is if you're doing it really quickly, that is totally fine. But get your space right. Make sure that when you do have those spare moments to do it, you can go in and things are kind of set up how you like it, so that it's welcoming, so that you've got your guitar sitting there, or you've got your flute sitting there, or you've got your microphone sitting there, or you've got whatever it is. That's number one. And there are plenty of things that you can do. The cool part about this is have fun with it. Figure out what works for you. And it's not always about having, GarageBand on your computer or whatever it is that you're using. You can certainly do that if you want. But it's really about just getting somewhere that's an open place for you to go in a room with a house. That's key. Just a room in the house where maybe that one you feel like you can get away from things for a little bit. That's how it starts. And as you work on this stuff, you'll figure out what is the best for you, and it'll improve it. And this same type of thing is what I've worked on over the years. It didn't start where it is now, but I worked on it a little bit, and I improved it a little bit. So that's number one. Number two actually goes hand in hand with this, and they're really joined, and that is practice at a quiet time during the day. You can't always get the most quiet time, but as long as there's a semblance of, you think try to close the door. Try to, get a semblance of that quiet time, and think about that, because the more you think about that, the more you're kind of investing in that, then it's really it's going to reward you going forward. And so that brings us to number 3, which is was also tied in, and that's doing it at the same time, or at a very kind of a regular schedule. It can change. Sometimes people can't always do it at the same time each day, but you want to start to get that regularity going on, and start to think, when am I going to do this? When am I going to have this happen? If you notice, a lot of these tips, they're so straightforward, but they are the ones. They're the ones that some of these things I figured out by reading a lot of the pages of the guitar magazines and the keyboard magazines, Performing Musician, all these types of different magazines that all look at these types of things. What are what's in the way for people? A lot of times the consumer will get a magazine, and they're not necessarily doing something that is they're not going out on a world tour tomorrow, and but the most effective things are the simple things. So see if you can find the same time every day. And what you want to do is you want to work on your focus during those times. So that's where we kind of narrow things down a little bit here. And during those times, what we want to do is we want to focus for 15 minutes, and we want to maybe take a little break, have a snack, have a few carrots, and then come back later. Maybe even come back in an hour after you watch another half an hour TV show. If you guys are watching a bunch of shows and you guys are kind of like going through a marathon and people need to stretch their legs, use that time, use that 15 minutes. And during that time, say, okay, I'm just going to focus on these one or two things. And I'm going to keep really, maybe even just one thing, but whatever it is, it's actually being really aware of what you're doing, not being distracted, right? So that ties in with what we're talking about, a quiet space. And what you start to do is you start to train that in. You start to train that focus in when you're, and it becomes a daily, something that you kind of look forward to. So that's why these simple habits are really the ones that we need and we need to start to build and train. Because what happens is, you look forward to that, and it just, you want to do that again. Oh, I better do that. It just, you kind of feel like you're, let me go do that right now. That's what we want. And so that's why teachers are always saying, start with just a little bit at a time, and all those types of things. It's so key. And so what you can do, that's what I always tell my students is, you have your 30 minutes, but break it up into 2 15-minute practices. And then what you can find that flows from this is you do 15 minutes. And then you come back later, you do another 15 minutes, you take a break. Okay, cool, I did that. You're going around, you're walking around the house. A little while later, you see your guitar out of the corner of your eye in your great little space that you have set up with your guitar stand. There's your guitar sitting right there. You have your keyboard right there. You have your drum kit right there. Whatever instrument it is that you have, it's right there. And you go, maybe I should practice for another, well, I'll just do 5 minutes again. You walk over, before you know it, 15 minutes has gone by again. You just did 45 minutes that day. Where we mess ourselves up is we think, okay, I need to do this practice, and okay, I'm doing a 30-minute or I'm doing a 40-minute practice. I'm going to sit down for this chunk of time. And because it seems like something we have to, it might seem like a bigger piece for some people. Some people are fine at doing 30 minutes, but it can be really common to think about, okay, here's this thing I need to do, and it sort of becomes this thing that's on the list. We don't want it to be a thing that's on the list. That's the power of what we're doing is start to just make it something that you're doing a little bit of. You're checking it off the list. And go through these 5 tips as your checklist. Do this every day. Start working on these things. Check these off the list. And then what you'll find is that you start to come back for a little bit more. You start to come back for a little bit more. You might look up at the clock and go, oh, I've just did another, whoa, it's been almost a half an hour and I just got in there again. We just have to get ourselves into the rhythm. We just have to get ourselves into the mode. So that's number 4, right? Doing it at the same time or relatively the same time every day. And part of that is exploring what is the best time for you. When can you do this? Okay, actually I really find I enjoy it at 2 o'clock, or, I really find I enjoy it at 4, or, you know what, I love doing it at 5:30. You've got to ask yourself those questions, because a lot of times we know what we want to do. We know what we think we could be doing. We know what is something that this is a goal, and gosh, this is something I'd really like. We just don't ask ourselves the question. So it's so simple. And so this can help take what you're doing, bam, and just help you to take off with it. So make sure you're investigating when the best time, be a detective in this and investigate what time is right for you. There are a lot of times that people will say, I tried this or I tried that. And, I've tried so many things. But if I ask the person, okay, well, what did you try? They'll go, well, I kind of started to try to do this, and then I wasn't able to. We think we've tried so many things, or we are trying, but we're not asking ourselves. People will say, I've tried 10,000 things. I've done so many ways. I've tried it every way. I don't know. You go, you've done 10,000? They go, well, I've done 1,000. I've tried things 10,000 ways. or 1,000 ways. But, and how many times have you tried it? Well, I tried it 100 times. Ask yourself how many times you've tried it different ways. You've tried different times a day. This sounds kind of a bit like Dr. Seuss. I do not like green eggs and ham, but I have a fun streak to me when it comes to teaching. And so, I think that's the job of the teacher, is to say, what are you guys doing? Because we all need a little help, and we need to help ourselves. And so that's what this is helping ourselves and going, okay, what are some of the things that I can do, and each day you work on it a little bit. You may not get it exactly right, but as long as you're going for it and you're doing it, then you can start to go, okay, all right. And it starts to become a welcoming thing that you can then, you're inviting yourself to be part of it. You're inviting yourself to pick up that instrument. You're inviting yourself to sing. And the fun part is in there. So that's where it takes it off of the list and starts to make sure that it's in fun. So be in fun when you're doing this kind of stuff. Be going, I'm going to try this. These are the tips. They're easy. Let me see what I can do. And the teacher can work with you, and all these things can happen. Then that brings us to number 5. Number 5 is setting an alarm on your phone. And this also includes other things. So you may, because it's got to be fun. I think an alarm is so simple. I think we all have our phones nowadays. You can just set an alarm. But I'm leaving it just a little bit open so that if you're a kid and you want to put a poster up of your favorite guitar player, you want to put a poster up of your favorite singer, or something that inspires you there, and you have it right there when you're looking at it, and that reminds you to practice. You just have to remind yourself in whatever way that is. What's cool about an alarm is the alarm goes off and you go, okay, gosh, right now, well, you know what, we're on the last 10 minutes of watching this thing that we're watching. You're able to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this in 10 minutes, but I'm going to do it. And these are all for you. These are all things that you're using to help you, right? So that's why this video, like I was saying at the beginning, it's the essentials. It's what's going to give you, what the information that you need, and the tools and the practices that you need. And so that's when we get into practice. We take practice away from, I'm practicing this. It's this big word that we're using as practice for everybody. Practice. But it's like, we're practicing these things. We're doing these little things. What's the practicum? That's what this stuff really means. It's just, the thing is, people use the words so lightly. I'm just practicing. You're not just practicing. I'm gonna go off about this right now, but you guys need to know, when you think about a doctor, and the doctor says, I have a family practice, a practice of medicine. Well, what would it be like if you went to the doctor and you said, I really have something serious I need to come in and get your help on, there's a surgery, and they said, well, I'm just practicing. Just practicing is not what practice means. It's just something that we say. Practice is, the doctor goes, I practice this. I have all these things that I do, and I do them regularly, and I've done them so many times that it's become, second nature, that you can trust me. I've done this thousands of times, and I'm really going to do a wonderful job for you, and you can be assured. That's the assurance of knowing what you're doing when it comes to practice, of what those things mean in a musical context as well. So I think it's really important to say this, because sometimes we have these little conceptions. We have certain thoughts about things that are the way other people look at it. If you can break that open and you can go, here are the 5 things that I need. Here are the things that are going to take me further. That's why I'm so excited. That's why I'm saying this. But, the teacher brings this to life. The teacher helps you. And so that's why I'm ending this with one habit of setting an alarm on your phone, or finding a way to remind yourself. Do that. And if you can just do one of these a day, I was talking to you about checking it off the list and doing each one. That's great. At first, if you can just do one, that's what is the most valuable thing out of all of this is start where you are as well. you know, and get everything the way that it needs to be, and set that alarm. Set that alarm, and you're going to be surprised at just how great everything goes. You know, give it an experiment in your life. Be the detective, and let it be an experiment that you can try something out, and then the next time you try out a little bit more, ask your teacher, let them know how you're doing, and work on these 5 tips, and you guys are just going to you're going to see things in a new way, because a lot of times we need to know what that list is, but we need to take it from the list to what we're doing, to the practices that are really going to help us to thrive, that are really going to help us to be inspired, and are really going to help us to achieve all the wonderful things that are possible.